What or who gives you hope that the new generation can create more peaceful societies? Where are the signs that progress is being made? Bria?
Thanks, Will. I really like this question because I'm an optimist, and I do believe that humanity still has the power of conscience to wake up and make the right decisions. In terms of who gives me hope that the new generation that can create more peaceful societies is the new generation itself, because I really admire the youth of today, because we don't wait to be invited to the table to discuss issues that are important to us. We bring our own chairs to the venue and invite the table to join us. So it gives me hope that our generation has been able to carve out a space for itself in every field and platform that were almost deemed inaccessible in the past. And we've demanded for our right to be heard and consulted, especially on matters that affect our future. And I really appreciate the multilateral way that we're doing this, because multilateralism is the foundation of any generation's collective decision. And platforms like Space Transformers are critical to come together as a collective and choose peace. And our voices are loudest when we're saying it together. Even just considering the number of people who might be tuning into this live event today, it's a global movement in the making. And that gives me hope.
Amazing. And Kasia, what do you think?
Thank you so much. So, I mean, through my work as a filmmaker, making 1.5 Degrees of Peace, it's really been my goal to highlight youth who are most affected by the climate crisis and by conflicts, who are at the forefront of fighting for peace and climate justice and breaking down silos and merging movements. And I hope that, that tool is something that can empower other young people to stand alongside these courageous activists. And in my time documenting the stories of youth and working with other young people, I've seen just how resilient they are and how justice is a value that they hold so closely. And it gives them the courage to fight for a better world, even when it's challenging to do so, even when it's emotionally taxing, physically exhausting. They show up because the time is now and because everybody deserves justice. And so that's what gives me hope, is that we continue to stand up and we continue to show up and find solutions.
Beautiful and heartwarming words there. Thank you so much for that. And Hajar, what are the signs? Where are the signs that progress is being made?
I think, in our line of work and in the topics we are discussing today, I think it's important for all of us, actually, even in order for us to continue to remain hopeful, is to understand that maybe we're not seeing the results right now, but our efforts are sooner or later going to yield results. I mean, earlier I said that, the threats that we face today, the global issues that we face today, they are not new. All of them have been there forever. There has been efforts to try to make a difference. Nevertheless, it's also important for us to recognize that there has been progress in many of the areas, even when it comes to a very, for example, important aspect of measuring progress is raising awareness, is that there is more and more people who understand what racial inequality means, who understand what gender inequality means, who believe that climate change is real. I think that perhaps is the most important progress that we have managed to make so far.
Yeah. And when I think about the future as well, for me, I just want racism to just not be a thing anymore. I want homophobia to not be a thing anymore. But maybe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, anyone on this panel, maybe is it that, the consequences in society just aren't as harsh enough? So maybe people continue to do things, spew out hate online in real life. Maybe the consequences aren't hard enough. Do you think, Ria?
I think the consequences are fair, but it's just that the explosion of the population on our planet, as well as the accessibility of media platforms in all corners of the world, make it extremely difficult to monitor these kind of injustices and to actually base it on evidence. So, our justice system is a tremendous task for them to cope up with this, with all the actions taking place all over the world. But one of the signs of progress, I would say, is that earlier, we didn't even have international frameworks like the UN Security Council 2250 or the Youth Peace and Security Agenda that enhances youth participation in peace processes. At least now, we have these policy frameworks in place that that protect and promote our participation in decision-making processes. So we have these commitments in writing, so we can hold ourselves and our leaders accountable to these standards. And that goes the same for justice. At least we have these mediums, these platforms, international frameworks, laws, international humanitarian law, human rights law. We have these instruments we can use to hold parties and parties accountable to injustices committed. But again, it's the responsibility of everyone. It's not just the responsibility of our leaders and governments to do this. It's also the citizens' responsibility to bring injustices to light, to engage in dialogue with parties that are committing injustices.
Exactly. Thank you so much for that. Now, as we've done with all of today's panel discussions, we want to leave the viewing and listening audience with some ideas about what they can do to practically help to build a more peaceful world. So what actions can young people do in their daily lives, starting from today, to change things, and which organizations can they support, Ria?
So I would suggest young people to start by volunteering with local organizations wherever it may be. Start from where you are. Read a lot and engage with your representatives because they exist there to represent your needs. But if you don't express what your opinions and views are, they won't know what to represent. As far as what organizations to support, I am a firm believer of the UN as an organization, as well as for its values and vision. But one doesn't have to work in the UN to work for peace. You can work with and for organizations like the UN and Peace One Day by advancing our shared goals in your own way. You can make a significant impact as an individual working for the Sustainable Development Goals or by promoting values of equality, human rights, and justice. So it's not about what organization you're placed in, but what you do with the power that you have. And one of the most important messages I can share is conscious living. Be aware of what consequences your daily actions have on the planet. That choice of choosing a plastic bag at the supermarket means that industries will continue producing plastic because consumers like you and me continue creating the demand for it. So be conscious of what kind of economic and political systems we are perpetuating. Peace is an embodied practice.
Exactly. That is amazingly said. Kasha, what action can young people do to take in their daily lives? What can they do to change things?
That's a great question. I think, I've noticed during the pandemic that we've seen a huge increase in engagement from youth in social and environmental issues and mass mobilization of youth activism for climate justice, anti-racism, economic justice. And I would really love to see more youth mobilizing for peace too. And I think that starts with building connections and friendships across movements and working together, finding ways to work together. But I can think of some really great organizations to suggest if you're interested in getting involved in peace and climate justice issues. Global Network of Women Peace Builders is a fantastic feminist peace organization. The International Campaign to Abolish Nuclear Weapons has a really active youth membership. Indigenous Climate Action is a fantastic organization based out of Canada, and Abolition 2000 Youth Network are really awesome youth-led organizations. And so there are so many incredible ways that young people can get involved, and not all of them involve being an organizer or a speaker. We need artists, we need researchers, we need people who are interested in legal issues. We need all sorts of skills to come to the table and contribute to creating a more peaceful and sustainable world.
Yeah, exactly. But what about those young people who are like 13 and, they just want to change their life. They just want to add in new things to do in their lives to contribute to the betterment of society. Like, what can someone who's maybe a bit more younger, like 13 or 12, say, do to make a difference, do you think, Kasha?
So that's really important as well, because personally, that's when I started to awaken to the issues that were happening in my community. And it sounds cliche, but starting small, starting within your community and observing, researching, thinking about what you've noticed is going on in your direct environment, bringing it to your friends and family, educating yourself, starting small initiatives within your school community are really great ways to start getting engaged. I've seen so many young kids, 13, 12, 10, even as young as 8, showing up to local climate strikes. And that's, a really great way to start learning more and becoming empowered to take action.
It's interesting because I feel like, being that age, you'd probably would you say you need a bit of confidence for that to show up at a climate strike, to feel like, even though I'm 12 or 13, I actually want to make a difference. Because you said you started quite young as well, Kasia. How was that for you?
I think what really allowed me to feel free to stand up for my beliefs as a young person was having one person who believed in me, and that was my mom. Not every young person has that support system, but reaching out and speaking up for your beliefs, you'll be able to find people who share in those values as well. So finding the courage within yourself to believe enough in yourself that you can make a difference, you will always find that support around you, even if you're your only support person. That will give you the confidence. I think, that's really empowering as a young person, and that's what really inspired me.